How's it going today, people? As you can tell, it's a lovely, sunny but cold, as you can tell from what I'm wearing, sunny but cold day. I thought today, as I'm out on my own today, unfortunately Becky's not feeling too well. No, she hasn't got the C word, don't worry, she's just not feeling well. I thought I'd come out and just talk a bit more about photography. I'm just going to go and try and find somewhere where I can place the camera down and then just kind of talk to you guys for a little bit, because walking and talking is just difficult. It is, as you can tell, very muddy. I'm crossing main roads. It's just easier if I put the camera down and talk to you. It's a cool little building. It's not a lot in it, it's just empty. I think it's an old barn. So I'm going to use this wall. Quick disclaimer, try to chuck it on the wall. I don't recommend these at all. These are fucking shit. They're good for doing like vloggy stuff with because you can bend it, but as an actual tripod, terrible. Okay, that side's even worse. Where can I go to film this? What about this? Let's start with a bit of history about me and how I started photography. I state on my website that I've been doing photography for about 9 years now, which is a little bit of a white lie, but it's also not at the same time. Let me explain. So about 9 years ago, well actually 10 now, because I've had the website up and running for over a year. So 10 years ago, I bought my first ever camera. That camera was the Canon 550D, which came with the standard kit lens, the 18-55, 3.5 to 5.6 f-stop, and I used that for everything. I bought that camera with my own money that I saved up for a very long time. I mean, I think it was even £550 at the time, which for a 15-year-old, very expensive. But I originally bought the camera because during them years I was doing a lot of blading, I was doing a lot of dirt jumping and doing like parkour. Myself and my friends, we all were into that kind of thing, and photography and filming kind of goes hand in hand with it. There's a few of us that are really into the photography and filming. We all had different cameras, we all had different like camcorders, and yeah, we were just trying to replicate what we'd see in the DVDs, in the magazines. And then YouTube came about, and yeah, everything we saw on there we wanted to replicate with the gear that we had. Little did I know how much there was to do with photography and filming. I mean, I spent just over £5,000 on a camera, and I believed that it was the best thing in the world. I didn't really know that you had to buy other lenses and UV filters and ND filters and handles and microphones. I knew nothing. I just thought that I bought the camera and it's going to do what I want to do. Which at the time when I was filming the skating and the parkour stuff, I believe it might have been 1080, although it being 10 years ago, I reckon it probably would have been 720. Yeah, quality wise wasn't on my, as long as it looked crisp and clean, I didn't know anything about camera settings. All I knew was megapixels and does it shoot slow motion, and that was about it at the time. Like I said, a lot of my other friends had camcorders, just old like your dad cam kind of things. They used to have the screw-on fisheyes. Even I had one of those screw-on fisheyes, which were the craze, and it still is now. People still use fisheyes for a lot of skating stuff. And I loved every minute of every day using that camera. Like I said, I used it for skating and parkour and dirt jumping, but I knew absolutely nothing about cameras at this point. I just knew how to stop and start recording, put it in autofocus, add a track to it and time it. Bob's your uncle, Fanny's your aunt. That was an edit. So I used that basic standard setup, the kit Canon 550. Let me redo this. So I used that Canon 550D kit lens and kit camera for a good few years until I eventually, like every newbie photographer does, gets their hands on the Canon 50mm 1.8, which if you haven't already had, highly recommend it. Fast 1.8 f-stop will blow your mind, and something that's under £100, incredible bit of kit. So let's fast forward a few years, and at this point now, I still don't really know a lot about cameras and settings. I know a bit more about what I needed to help myself. I might be a little bit lost here. I knew a little bit more about what I needed, especially what equipment I needed to make myself look like a photographer. So I ended up having a battery grip, a flash gun that I don't think I ever had any batteries in it, and for filming I ended up getting the screw-on fisheye and then like a carry handle. Never used the microphone because I was always putting music over stuff. Talking back then wasn't really a big necessity, like vlogging like this wasn't a thing when I first started with photography and filming. I have a feeling I've just walked into someone's field. I might just go back the way I came. Yep, I'm just going to go back the way I came. Look, I'm back here again now. Anyway, as I was saying, as the years progressed and I carried on skating, I actually eventually ended up stopped skating and moved into doing BMXing. I stopped doing parkour, I stopped dirt jumping. Unfortunately, photography and filming just kind of got away from me really. It just slowly faded out of my life. I mean, not completely. At this point, phones had started coming in, so I started taking a lot more photos and videos on phones for social media. So when Instagram sort of started kicking off for everyone. And it wasn't the fact that I didn't love taking photos or filming anymore. It's just the fact that, I know it sounds a bit strange coming from an 18-year-old at the time, but life got in the way. I was working full-time as a window cleaner, I was going to college, I was also going out to nightclubs and drinking, and I was smoking, and you know, whatever 18-year-olds want to do and what they consider is a cool lifestyle. I was just doing that. I was just got into modified cars, riding motorbike, you know, just hanging out with people and literally doing nothing with my life more or less apart from working. I eventually moved into a flat with a very good friend of mine who I also rode BMX with, and I believe he bought the camera off me because he used it to start filming another friend of ours, Kalen. He started filming him for a BMX edit. Sick gun, check him out. So after living at the flat, I ended up moving to Australia. Well, I ended up travelling around Australia, should I say, for just over a year. But within my first, I want to say, it's so slippery here. Within my first, I'm just sliding the whole way. But in my first 2 to 3 months, I found myself just jumping straight back into photography and just using my iPhone for everything I could. So as I was saying about Australia, it's treated a lot shorter than I thought. The first few months in there, I ended up taking loads of photos with my phone. I ended up watching loads of YouTube videos about how to take better iPhone photography, downloaded loads of editing apps, had so much fun with it. So after those 3 months in Sydney, I ended up moving rooms in my dorm and ended up meeting one of the sickest people I've ever met in my life. And that person is Callum. So I ended up living with Callum in this dorm. We got really lucky actually. We ended up having a 4-bedroom dorm with our own ensuite and a fridge. I think it was a fridge freezer as well, and it pretty much for I think 95% of the time that we were living there, it was just me and him until we ended, is that in focus? Until we ended up meeting 2 other people who are absolute legends as well. Fun little fact, I think we lived together for 5-6 months after that time. Do we live together long? How long did we live together for, Callum? No, I was only in Sydney for 6 months. I can't remember. We lived together for a good few months. It was only until like the last week of living together that we found out we have exactly the same birthday. A few years apart, but exactly the same birthday. What are the odds in that?